Hi and welcome to this What's New in Pano2VR 8 video. Pano2VR 8 has lots of new features, including 3D models and Gaussian splats, which we will look at later. For a full list of what's new, please check out our documentation. So jumping straight in, we've got Pano2VR open. I'm going to select the New Project button, and that's going to open our new project wizard. So step one of the wizard, obviously, is add some panoramas. Now I'm going to drag and drop a few in. We could have quite easily used the blue folder button to select panoramas, and we're going to click Continue. Right, the next screen is to select a skin. Now, new for Pano2VR 8, we've got a skin called Quaranta, so I'm going to select that. And onto the next screen, we can configure the skin. So if I select the skin configuration, you can see that we can add and remove features. I'm going to leave it at default, and then we can generate the output. So let's just click OK, save, and produce our first output. Here's the output. You can see there's the panorama. It's a drone shot, and we can use the skin's thumbnail menu to navigate around. If I go back to Pano2VR, what we could do to finish this tour off is drag and drop in the panoramas to make the hotspots. Here we go. I'm not going to do that. What we're going to do is, because all these panoramas are geolocated, all I need to do is go Tour, automatic link in closest node, and then that's all the panoramas linked by hotspots. Save the output. This will cause Pano2VR to create a live update. That live updates the output, and you can now see that we've got navigation arrows to move around the tour. Moving on, you'll see we've got this new cleaner interface with new icons, as well as a new grid skin view. Here we go. Skins get new configuration menus. So if we have a look at the skin configuration for the Quaranta Skin, you'll see that we get radio buttons. And if I select a different skin, let's go for Feather Orb, you'll see that we now get nice, clean drop-down menus as well. The Feather Orb and Nito skins also get gradient color themes. So if you look down the list, you'll see that we've got some gradient colors. If I select a dark theme, you'll note that we've got white icons. There we go. And if I was to select a light theme, so let's just do the yellow, you'll see that the skin automatically changes. We've now got the darker icon with the yellow background. So it's automatically changing the secondary color. Another new feature in Pano2VR 8 is you can now add your own skins directory into Pano2VR directly. We can do this by selecting Pano2VR preferences on the Mac, file settings on the PC, select files, and under the default skins and default VR skins, next to them you'll see that there's this green cross button. Select the cross, and then you can pick your folder full of your skins here, or we can just drag and drop them in. There we go. As soon as they're done and it's added, you'll find your skins available for selecting in the list. I'm going to select this old V6 silhouette skin. There it is. The other thing is, if you have it set to favorites, which is selected here, you'll see that you'll also get the preview in the skins grid view. There you go. Pano2VR 8 also supports new image formats. So if we select the panorama, go into the properties panel, if I just look at the convert, you'll see that we've got JPEG XL, but also if I select TIFF, we've got compressions now. We've got new compression. We can select WebP and JPEG XL as well. Also for Pano2VR 8, we're supporting color profiles in the viewer, and additionally you can convert to the new extended color profile P3 on export. So if we select project properties, project settings, you'll see that the output profile we can select P3. At the beginning of the video, we said we support 3D mesh models and Gaussian splats. So let's take a look. Here we go, 3D mesh model. This is a .glb file. It was captured using a drone footage. We used Reality Scan to create this, but you can use apps like Polycam and Metashape and various others. Right, without further ado, let's have a look at what it looks like in the output. So let's just have a look, you can see we've got the model there. We're using a panorama, a drone panorama as the background, and we've got various point hotspots. Here we go. So we can open up a PDF, or we've got an image hotspot here, and we can also connect to panoramas. So we're going to click the Pano, and basically we're going to swoop in, and we get this blending between the panorama and the model. There we go. So we're actually using the model as well between as a transition between panoramas. So we're in the drone pano. I'm going to go down to the lawn. You can see we are using the model, and then we can come back up to the sky. Right, okay. So we've also got the interaction with things like thumbnail menus and maps, but here we can see we can click and we get this interaction. But it's not just 3D models Pano2VR 8 supports. What I'm going to do is open up another project, and this time round we're going to have a look at a Gaussian splat. That's it. We're supporting not only 3D models but Gaussian splats. Again, this was created using drone footage or drone video. This was we used Polycam to create this one, but again you can use other applications such as PostShop. Okay, this supports the file type of PLY, .splat on an SPZ, and we're also supporting the new SOG format. There you go. So let's have a look at the output and see what a Gaussian splat's going to look like. Now obviously we've got the drone shot at the back, and we've still got our point hotspots. And again, we can click on the node hotspot and have a visit, and you can see it blends in, and we're using the Gaussian splat as a transition as well. So now let's take a look on how you would use them. So starting with a new project, we're going to drag and drop the 3D model into the viewer. And when it loads, you'll see that we've got this grid view. Now this grid is representing the floor of the model. So I'm going to rotate this around. And what I'm going to do is just zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to set the default view. As soon as I set the default view, you'll see that the thumbnail updates in the tour browser. Okay, so now the model's in. Not all 3D software is going to produce models that are nice and flat and in the center. So how can we move this around? Well, we've got the viewer tools. I've selected manipulate 3D model. As soon as I do that, we get this 3D widget that allows us to move the model around backwards and forwards and left and right. So let's just put that back. The model is not laying flat. We have a rotation tool here, so we can rotate it around. So yeah, to get the model nice and flat on the grid or its floor. If you've got a mouse with 3 buttons, the center button will allow you to click and drag the model around. If you're using a trackpad or a mouse without a center button, you can hold down the option on the Mac or Alt on the PC, and this will do the same thing. You can click and drag it around. Okay, right. Other things you can do whilst you're in the viewer is if we zoom in, we can use keyboard buttons Q and E. This moves up and down. A and D move side to side, and W and S move backwards and forwards. This happens relatively slowly, but if you press and activate caps locks, this will move it a little bit quicker. And if you hold down the shift key as well, this happens faster still. So it's really useful if you're looking around the model. Right, okay. I'm going to set my default, or go back to my default view. This is why I set it earlier, because sometimes it's just easier and quicker to do this. Right, so this is with the 3D model in place in Pano2VR. So what I want to do now is create an output. So let's select output web. I'm going to select the feather orb skin. I'm going to collapse the grid view for the skin so it gives us a bit more real estate so we can see the live update. So let's just click OK, save, and produce our first output. So there's the model. And it has a grey background which I want to address. So we're going to go back to Pano2VR. If I click on the model, I'm going to select the model properties. And here under model properties, you'll see we've got background image, and I'm going to select a panorama. This is a drone pano. I'm going to open it up, And what I'm going to do now is just save the project. This will cause the live update to process the output, and we'll see, as soon as that's finished, we'll see the panorama attached. So there's the panorama and there's the 3D model. Okay, cool. So what else can we do with this then? Right, well, what we want to do is start building up. So I want to add some point hotspots. So let's just go back in. Now to do this, I'm going to look straight down, because don't forget we're in 3D space. So when we add stuff, it could be too far back, too far forward. But if we're looking straight down, it sort of helps with the placement. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a point hotspot that's going to open up a PDF. So I'm going to drag and drop a PDF in. So it creates the hotspot there. The hotspot snaps to the model's surface. And I'm going to use the 3D widget to pull it up so it's just a little bit higher. I'm going to do the same thing now for a image hotspot. So I'm going to drag and drop here. You'll see that the hotspot is then snapped to the surface of the model, and I'm just going to pull it up. Okay, let's save the output and let's see what we've got. Here you see the two hotspots. This is the one that opens up the PDF, and this is the one that opens up the image. Okay, so that's our 3D model with the two hotspots. So taking this a step further, I'm going to go back to the project file and we're going to add some panoramas. So I'm just going to add the lawn. We've got a drone shot in the center, and finally a shot from outside the gate. So I'm going to go back to the model, and what we'll do, again, what we're going to do is face down because it's easier for placement, and we're going to zoom in. And again, I can obviously use the Option key to drag it around because I'm on the Mac, and we're going to just drag and drop the panoramas in, creating the hotspots. So let's one there. The drone is just above this circle but halfway up the building, and then we've got one on the outside just here. So I've added the hotspots. What we want to do now is use the 3D widget to just bring them up slightly. So that's what we're going to do there, because they are snapping to the model's surface. Now this particular hotspot, as I say, was the drone, so it's slightly up higher than the rest. Okay, so let's just create the, or save the project file that will give us a live update, and let's just see these hotspots. And there they are. Here we go. So these are the hotspots that are opening up the panoramas. We'll go there. We've got this cross dissolve. We can use the thumbnail menu to get back to the model and select different panoramas. Okay, what I want to quickly do is just go in and set this up as a little tour. So if I hold down the command key or control on the PC, I'm going to bring up our target view. So I'm going to set the target, and if I again hold down the Option or Alt on the PC, we can visit that node. So I'm just going to set up basically a tour quickly. So let's just set everything up. So yeah, happy with that. Spin that around. I want to come back down to the lawn. I need the target to go to the building and then follow that through. And then whilst we're at the building, I want to drag and drop because I want to come back to the 3D model. There it is. And again, I can Option click to go back to the model. All right, so with that all set up, I'm just going to save the project. That's going to create a live update, and we'll see all this working when it's updated. There it is. So now when I click on the point hotspots, you'll see that we've got the hotspots between the nodes, and we can come back up to the model. What we want to do now is use the model for our transitions. So back to the project file. I'm going to, as I say, go face down on the model because it's easier to place items. And we're going to select camera mode. Now the idea is that when we pull in and drag and drop a panorama into the model, it's represented by a camera. So the panorama then becomes a camera. And the idea is, in this section, what we want to do is align the camera within the 3D model. So when we transition from the panorama to the model, it's a seamless transition. So this is what we're doing, we're aligning it, and we're going to be doing this using control points. So the first job then is to press this button, which is moved to the camera point, and that takes us to the position inside the model. Now when we do this, you'll see that we've now set the model to fly mode, and we've automatically set the viewer to control point mode. What we're looking for is common features within the model and the panorama. So when we add our control points, we add them to the same points, and that's going to help us align the camera within the 3D model. So let's do that by double clicking. You want an even spread, so I'm just going to put a few in now. I'm going to spin it around, get the back there, so I'm going to do another one there, and one at the window and the corner of the window. Alright, so that's my control points added, and you can see in the current node, which is the model. I now need to switch to the lawn panorama, and if we have a look at this button up here, it says switch to node, and the node is going to be the lawn. So when I click that, that's what we do. We go to the lawn panorama. Now if I select the first unlinked control point at the top here, it says it's unlinked because it's not in the current node, which is the lawn. So now what I want to do, using the control point viewer, which is guiding us, to add the control points in the panorama as well. So double click. The more accurately you can do this, the better the camera alignment will be. Alright, so we're just going to whiz around, add some more, one at the back, and then I've got one on the corner of this window. Once we've done this, what we can do now is align the camera up using these control points, and we do this by using this button. When we click this, it aligns it up, and you can see the output. There you go. This is the, I say the output, the result of that alignment. The closer to 0, the better that it's going to be. It could be that if you click it again, the button again, it might improve, which it does. Okay, now that's setting up the camera within the 3D model, but what we need to do now is tell Pano2VR to use it as a transition. So if we go to the output and to the output properties, go to transitions, you'll see that we can choose model as our transition type. The transition speed, or the time, is set to 1 second. That's going to be too quick because we'll fly in and it'll only take a second. I'm going to extend that to 4 seconds, and then what we're going to do is save the output, which will then give us a live update in the output. There it is, and when we click on the point hotspot now, you'll see that we'll fly in. There we go, and because of the alignment and the control points, we blend nicely into the panorama from the model, and we got that coming back out. There we go, so we're using the model now as part of our transitions. What you may have noticed that when we did use the model for our transitions, we are getting this change within the model. So let's just have a look at that coming out. Right, so this change is to do with the model's materials. Now what we can do is get Pano2VR to replace it with our own. So that's what we're going to do. With the model selected, we're going to have a look at the 3D model tab, and here we can see where it's got keep original materials, we're going to select replace with transition materials. That's our own. So let's just save this and see what it looks like. And there you go, we're using the model for transitions, and it's all looking much nicer. Right, I want to add another camera point for the drone panorama. So again, we're going to switch to the camera mode, zoom in. I'm going to drag the drone panorama in to create the drone's camera. There it is. I'm going to drag it up so you can see the camera is actually pointing downwards. And again, we're going to align it like we did last time. So let's go to the camera position within the panorama. You'll see that we've already got control points added. These are the control points we added when we were doing the lawn, or aligning the lawn's camera. So all I really need to do now is just switch to the drone center panorama, and we can start adding control points in the panorama by double clicking. Spin it round. Right, now what I want to do is go back to the model before I align the camera to the model, and show you that if we go to the camera, you'll see that it's pointing down because this is unaligned, so the camera is pointing straight to the floor. If I select this and then we align the camera, using the control points. And you'll see that the camera position snaps to where the panorama is, if you like, embedded within the 3D model. It's basically the camera, so we've aligned the camera within the 3D model. Okay, so if we create an output now, you'll see that we'll be able to use the model for the transition for this drone shot as well. So there we go, up we go, and transition to the panorama. There we go, so we can go backwards and forth. Right, I'm going to add one more camera for the outside panorama. This time around I've got no control points I can reuse, so I'm adding new control points to the model. There we go, I'm just adding a few, as I say, reference points or features I can see in both the Pano and the model. We're going to switch to the outside panorama. I'm going to select the first one we've added here, double click in, adding our control points. Okay, that should be good. Let's save the output and see what we've got here. So let's spin it round. Let's go to the drone shot. And let's go to the outside shot, the one we've just done. And there's it blending. But you'll see there's a problem. Here what's happening, when we click the hotspot, we're actually going through the wall rather than the arch. So how can we fix that? Right, well, let's go back to the project file, go back to the model, and then select camera. All right, so if we have a look and zoom in, you'll see that we can see the two camera positions now, one for the drone shot and one for the outside. All right. Now, if I select the drone camera and then select this button, link mode, and select the outside camera, you'll see that this line appears, and this is a visual representation of the motion path. All right, so let's just move the model around so we can see that better. There we go. So you can see that motion path here between the two cameras, and it is indeed, if we zoom in and have a look, it is indeed going through that top of the wall. All right, so yeah. Now we can fix this. Now this line, when we double click on it, we can turn it into a waypoint. And then what we can do is grab that waypoint and put it so it's through that arch. So I'm just going to grab this and push it through the arch like that. Here we go. So let's have a look, come down. I'm going through the model. Here we go. Come down, and that should do us. So now you can see the motion path. We're coming from the drone and then going through the arch. So let's just save the project and see what that gives us. There you go. We're now flying through the arch instead of the wall. Right, that's some of the new features in Pano2VR 8, and as always, thanks for watching.